Right. So right after coming back from a practical session with the international optometrist, I was filled in my heart with so much I need to do so much more. Hearing all the stories of people going in and not really coming out of the desired outcome, I decided to do this video to let you know how you are to go into that GOC interview and pass with a proceed to pre-reg. And if that is something you are looking for, then you're in the right space, because I will be doing this right now for you. More importantly, I may not have time in a YouTube video to cover everything. And so if you have any questions about anything regarding the GOC interview process, ask it in the comments below and I will get back to you. That goes to say, if you get any value out of what we're going to discuss right now, I want you to give us a thumbs up, smash that like button and subscribe, and tell your fellow optometrists about what we do here on this channel. Right, let's get into it. Now, the very first thing I will tell you for success in your GOC interview is you need to have a mindset that your case is different. I hear a lot of people say that they have people in their class that was top of the class, really intelligent, maybe did even masters in the United Kingdom, came out with a distinction, and they still came out with a lot of adaptations. I find that it dampens their spirits, and they begin to think, well, if that person couldn't make it, then what chance do I have? I always tell you, and I want to tell you, that you are different. That they didn't make it doesn't mean that you're not going to make it. But if you allow that mindset to grip you, doesn't matter how much you read, doesn't matter how much you invest in your learning, it is going to take a toll of you in the interview day. Because if the assessors ask you a particular question that you're not too familiar with, you didn't quite understand it, immediately that your friend is going to pop up in your mind. That gives you a mind block, and that's the end of your interview. So you want to work on your mindset, especially for the stories you've heard of those people that you've rated higher than yourself and they didn't come out with a positive outcome. You want to rid your mind of all that and say, my case is different because I am different. They didn't make it, but I'm going to put in all the effort and I know that I can make it. I always tell, those I work with in the academy, think of a challenge that you had and you overcame. So it was a hard challenge. Mustn't even be academic, maybe even academic when you were doing your degree exams, or maybe when you were wanted to travel to somewhere or something. For some of us, even our IELTS, some people had to write that exam more than once. But if you've written that exam and you've passed it, that is, especially if you were worried about it, would they understand my English and things like that, that is a good positive point to leverage on, to build your positive mindset, because you need to be sure on the inside of you. I've just launched my brand. I am committed. It's in you. That's sort of a podcast, sort of a channel that is coming out. And I always want to tell you, listening to me right now, it is in you. The success of being a qualified UK optometrist is right on the inside of you, not on what people think about you, not on what your friends around you are doing. It is on the inside of you. You just need to work and bring it out. Go into that interview hall, which is the first stage for your qualification journey, and come out successful, right? So now you've got a good mindset. You understand, you believe in yourself. No one's going to believe in you. I mean, you can be in the academy and I'm your head coach. I could believe in you, but if you do not believe in yourself, you're not going nowhere. So that's why that mindset thing is so, so important. Now, after that, the next thing you want to pay attention to is your application form. Your application form is actually the first point of call for your assessors. They're looking at that is you. Have you heard of the saying, first impressions matters? Exactly. Your application form is the first impression your assessors are going to have of you. And so you want to make sure that you fill the application form and it's clinically aligned to who you are, to the expertise that you have, for the years of practice, and for the vast number of patients and different patient case scenarios that you have been seeing. And so I want to say, your application form is not something you want to pick up from someone and just copy down the numbers or copy their style. No, it has to be a unique clinical representation of you. Okay, good. Now, once you've done that application form, obviously with all the recommendation letters, I want you to follow exactly as the GOC had advised you to do it in your letters and your recommendation letters. Don't use a blanket template. just when you look at the recommendations they've given you as regarding the number of patients you've seen, the equipment you use, the type of cases you are seeing, as they have given it to you in that email that they send back to you after your pre-assessment, you want to make sure that every single email, every single recommendation letter has all the components of the email, because if you don't, you send it in, no harm made anyway. They'll just send it back to you and say that they need more information. Right. The next thing I would advise you to do is, when you are submitting your application as well, make sure there are no gaps. Okay, so even if you had children and you were out of work, maybe to take care of the children before you went back, or you traveled, some of us, we moved from a particular country. Like myself, I moved from Nigeria to the United Kingdom in 2012. There was a gap for work, so obviously I had to put it in like that was relocation. I was moving from this country. So every single thing, when you're filling in your CV and all, make sure that there are no gaps. Fill in the gaps. If you had it for education, for study, for travel, for family, a career break, absolutely fine. You wanted to travel the world, it does not matter. Okay, so you want to make sure that everything is dotted from the day you were born to the current date that you are submitting your documentation. Now, when that is all settled, the next thing you need to do now is to prepare well for your GOC interview. A lot of people take preparation for this GOC interview very lightly, and I don't take it lightly. And the way I even run things in the academy and the preparation courses that they go through, I'm actually preparing them for practicing in the UK, and I advise that you do the same. You need to prepare for your interview, because it's not an academic interview actually. So yes, you're going to be studying and going through anatomy, physiology, pathology, thinking more deeply about the cases you've seen. What did they present with? What sort of test did you do? What was your provisional or what was your tentative diagnosis or your actual diagnosis? What was the management plan? Who did you refer them to? And when you referred them, what sort of treatment did they receive? So all these things you're going to be putting it. I would actually say, take the preparation for your GOC interview very serious. As I have 4 lovely children, and the ones that are a little bit grown, the 16 and the 14-year-old, I said to them, when you are preparing for your GCSE, you want to prepare to get 100%. We're not aiming for an 8 or a 7. We're aiming for a 9. We're aiming for maximum score, so that if you go in there, anxiety takes over, there's a bit of panic, something like that, then you can at least drop into the 8s or even the 7s. But when you're just preparing for average, I'm just going to skim through that interview, it doesn't work. I hear a lot of people in different discussion groups talk about, when you go into the GOC interview, you have to be careful with what you say, because when you say something, you can be snared. Even the Bible says you are snared by the words of your mouth. However, I have found out that for those that are coming from those groups, and obviously I have, the privilege of mentoring these wonderful international optometrists, it gives you a mind block. You can't be preparing to go into an interview hall and you're thinking about how you're going to be giving one sentence. Very limited discussions, because I don't want to say anything that will make them to ask me a question and I may not know the follow-up. Do you know what that has done already? That has already given you like very, very, very slim chance of receiving a proceed to pre-reg, but a very high chance of getting an adaptation. Because when you go into the interview with that sort of mindset, with that sort of tactic, you're going to be speaking things in bits and pieces. There's some things that your mind may want to say, but you say, well, I don't want to say this, because you're already speculating the follow-up question. And what that would do is it will present you as a clinician that doesn't really have a vast knowledge in that subject matter. And that's how adaptations come to be. So you don't really want to do that. You really actually want to think. I always ask them in the academy, what is that part of the competencies that you don't want them to ask you? And then we begin to work on it. And that's what you should do. Think about, yes, you've done all your studies, you're going through all the competencies. What is that part of the competency that you're not too conversant with? What is that part of the competency that you don't really know much about? Maybe you've read and you've studied, you've discussed in groups, you've done this, and it's not quite working. What else can you do for yourself? You can look for help. You can pay for extra lessons, tutorials, and all that. Okay. So, but I would advise that you really take your preparation for your interview serious. Now, when you get into that interview hall, aside obviously other things such as making sure that you've got good internet connection, your camera is working, your video is working well and all, when you go into that interview, as you click join the meeting, let it be that you're opening your consulting room and you're going into your consulting room. And so when you're discussing with your assessors, you are not discussing from an academic standpoint. You are discussing as a clinician in your clinic, talking about your patients to another colleague in another country. Okay? And once you do that, I tell you, it releases the nerves. You become in your comfort zone, because remember, when you are in your clinic seeing your patients are there. They've come to you for help. You've got the expertise. You're the ones doing the test, the refraction, the 8-point cover test and all those sort of things. You are the ones that are doing you are the one that is doing that test, and you're the one that is reading out the results of the test to your patient. You are the one that is telling your patient, okay, so as regarding what you have said, we've got options for you. You can have a pair of progressive additional lenses, you can have bifocals, you can have 2 separate pairs, and these are the pros and cons of the different options. And then the patient makes their choice. So if you go into that interview hall and you go in there as a clinician, it gives you a better posture. Yes, it gives you a better posture. Now, the next thing I'm going to say here is you really want to know that for the fact that the United Kingdom is still has their door open for international optometrists coming into UK is because we need you here. Yes. Take that from me. We need you here. The clinics here need you here. And that's why the GOC still has their door open, doing interviews and allowing international optometrists into the pre-registration room as a route to UK qualification, so that they can have more ophthalmic opticians in the clinics, in the hospitals, taking care of the eyes and that. So don't think that, am I wasting my money? Is this going to be a waste of time? Are they just doing it as a cliche? Do they just want to, get some money from the international community? No. So if you get into that interview hall, you have 100% chance of becoming a UK qualified optometrist, and I want you to take it at that. Now, the next thing you need to do as regarding preparation and succeeding in your GOC interview is engage in practical sessions. Engage in practical sessions. And I'm going to discuss this in 2 lights, okay? Now, so there are people that you may know that have gone through this process, or that is even, they may not even have gone through the process, but they are working as optometrists in the UK. These are people that you want to partner with and do what I would call practical sessions. Practical sessions are in 2 ways. They could be virtual sessions where, maybe you're talking about your case. You can do a voice note of your case. You can do even a video of the cases you've seen in practice and send it to that optician and let them just listen. It's all about listening and making sure that it makes sense. Make sure that, the case that you're presenting, the symptoms of the patient that came into the clinic is following on to the test that you did, to the diagnosis and to the management plan. Don't just be an island. One thing I noticed, especially in Nigeria where I come from, there are a lot of people that I know that just went right from there straight into the interview hall, came up with loads of adaptations because they felt they want to do it on their own. This journey is not something I would advise you do on your own. I remember when I was doing my preparation for my GOC competency exams at the time. This was way back in 2014. Or so, I think I took 2014 or 2015, I can't remember. But I joined a group, I was in a group, and we were going to different parts of the country for tutorials. We were going to meet the people that are in the system, that understood the system, knew what they were talking about. At the time, there was no even like tutorials for international optometrists. So we had to download the specification of the exams, and then we'll give it to the lecturers, and then they'll come up with tutorials for us. And I was going to different parts of the country to do this in order to add to my knowledge. I don't want to go into that interview hall and or any of the competency exams halls at the time and then have a surprise. I need to know the format. I need to know how to answer. What are they looking for? And I would also advise that you do the same. The next thing I would advise is that you engage in practical workshops. And when it comes to practical workshops, what I mean, you could do it in two ways. So if you are practicing in the international community, when you are seeing a patient, obviously you ask for consent. You could put a camera there, do your tests, and everything, and also send it to the same person that you're talking about, your patient cases and all that. Send the procedures, let them see what you're doing, okay? And then you begin to work on it. Because remember, immediately after the GOC interview comes what? The pre-registration year, where you will be in clinic seeing patients here in the United Kingdom. So many people I know have finished with their GOC interview, have gotten a proceed to pre-reg. They are in the pre-registration hall, in the pre-registration year, and then a lot of problems because they're seeing patients. They don't really know how the flow is supposed to be. Everything is up in the air. Their instrumentation techniques not quite up to standard, and then they lose their placement. Their visas times are running out. The head office is sending them letters. It is indeed a mess. So to avoid that mess, whilst you are preparing for your GOC interview, be preparing your clinical skills so that when you get that proceed to pre-reg, you get your job placement, you go in there, no stress, no skin pains, you're seeing your patients, you're doing what you should do as a pre-registration optometrist, and then in the course of time, you get your GOC number to become a fully registered optometrist. Now, that is one way to do it. If you are in the international community, you're in your country like Nigeria, Zambia, India, anywhere, and you're doing practice, you can do literal videos and send it in for review. Okay. Now, if you are in the United Kingdom, there are some centers that do host practical sessions. Most times it's called instrumentation workshops, because obviously in the United Kingdom, you can't see patients if you do not have the student GOC number. So look for those instrumentation workshop, and attend. I actually advise attend at least one before your GOC interview. What that does for you, especially if you've been out of practice for a long time, it just brings, memories. Just like, you've learned how to ride a bike and then you haven't ridden it for a long time. As you get onto the bike, there may be some stumblings, but after a while, you sort of stabilize. Or you have been swimming for a while, but it took some years. You haven't really been into the water. That actually happened to me. Funny enough, I actually forgot how to swim. But when you go into the water, for most people, my case is always different. Yeah, you start to paddle again. So going into the clinic and actually having a feel of these equipment, watching the demonstrations and having hands-on on the equipment can bring back, it just refreshes your memory. And then whilst you're in the interview hall discussing your cases with your with the assessors about your patients, that feel that you had, that being in, even one of the candidates that attended our instrumentation workshop that we had sometime last year, what she said was that this is just amazing because it makes me feel like a clinician again. Just being in here, not for a site test, but coming in here, as I'm going through this GOC process, it just awakens that clinician that is in me. I love optometry and I just love being in this clinic environment. And that was a good motivation for her to go further and study and prep and just bring her case scenarios together and go in there and get a positive outcome. Now, there's so many other things that I can talk about. And the last thing I'd like to talk about, which I should have talked about first, is your faith. Everything we receive in life, every success in life, there is always a spiritual undertone. Yeah. Okay. I know. Now, if you are not a Christian, pardon me, but I cannot stop. One thing they say is you can't give what you don't have. I'm not holding anything back here, and I'm going to tell you the way I did it, the way I know that it's working for people that have seen it works. You want to pick up your faith. Yes, you want to pick up your faith. So for me, I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus. At the time, I would always pray. I would take the communion wine. I would use the anointing oil. I'll speak words of affirmation over myself. I am a success. I'm not a failure. I go there and I succeed. Even when the assessors at the time asked me, so what attempt is this? Because in our time, they used to call it attempt. You did have 3 attempts at it. But I know now with the GOC interview, it's 1 attempt. You go in there, you either receive your proceed to pre-reg, or there are other outcomes. I have a video on the channel where you look at the 5 outcomes. You can look at that video, But when they asked me what attempt is this, I said to him, I do not attempt exams. I come to exams and I pass exams. And by the grace of God, I did pass that exams. And at the time, I was the first Nigerian to actually sit all the competencies in one sitting and pass all at a go. So, and that's because I just leaned on the Lord Jesus to help me and guide me through my journey, and he did give me good success. Okay, right. So I hope this was helpful for you. I just want to ask, what part of this video actually resonated with you? Is there anything that you've learned? Now, if you have any questions, remember to put it in the comments below, and I really want to know which particular one resonates with you. And if there's any other video that you want me to do as regarding the GOC interview, put it in the comments below, and I will definitely be making that video. Just before you even close your eyes and open, the video is uploaded. I want to thank you so much for listening. Remember to like, share, and let me know in the comments if you have any questions. I'll get back to you. If for any reason you feel that you need some clinical transformation, tutoring, mock interview, or you want to attend our next practical instrumentation workshop, I want you to just put a comment below and say interested. Yes, I want to enroll. Interested, enroll. Any of those instrumentation workshop. And then I will just reach out to you and let you know when the next dates are. And then obviously you can get yourself booked in if you want to go through our next UK Ready GOC Accelerator program. It's a program for international optometrists that are preparing for the GOC interview. And honestly speaking, it's just so good, because you don't only get preparation for passing your GOC interview, but you get preparation to thrive as an optometrist in the UK, making even your pre-reg year even more successful. And in that program, what we do, for those of you that are in the international community, we do have a session where we book you in. So you've passed your GOC interview, you've got your placement, you're coming in. We arrange for you to have a day in clinic. By that time, you've got your GOC number. So you have a day in clinic where you have a feel of all the equipment. You can come with your patient, practice your VOG, contact lens fitting and all that. A day in clinic with me before you go and start your pre-registration year. That actually gives good footing for starting your pre-registration year. So if you're interested, remember, just put interested. Yes, I want to enroll. Yes, enroll, whatever. Just say, reach out to me, doc. I really want to get started with this particular program. It sounds interesting to me, and I will reach out to you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.